Hey, what's up? So, do you believe that you're a super great therapist? However, you are unable to make more money simply because you are stuck in overthinking, analysis paralysis, and that is preventing you from getting to work and earning the amount of money that you deserve and that you want. And so, if your answer is yes, that is me, then go ahead, tap into this podcast episode. Let's go ahead and master limiting beliefs, and let's talk about overthinking to overflow. All right, y'all, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Dr. TK, and in today's podcast, we are talking about mastering reframing your thinking so that you can move from overthinking to overflow. And we are no longer going to live in a state of analysis paralysis. We are no longer going to live in a state of not being able to grow our business, make more money, live the lifestyle that you want simply because you are overthinking. And so first, let's define what a limiting belief is. All right. So I'm going to read from the actual textbook definition. So limiting beliefs are defined as beliefs that create mental blocks and prevent us from taking action or achieving success. So some examples of a limiting belief, especially as it relates to, for example, private practice or digital products, can sound like, I'm not ready. I don't have enough time. Well, what if I put it out there and it fails, right? Does any of this sound familiar? Now, because I'm a clinical psychologist and part of my work with my therapy clients is to help them shift how they're thinking about their limitations into a state of abundance by simply practicing reframing. So reframing, if we looked at it from putting your limiting beliefs on a sheet of paper, it would look like putting down all the things that you believe might not happen, or that may be blocks, or that may prevent you from earning more money and doing the things that you desire to do in your business and in your life on one side of the paper. And then you're going to put a line, and then you're just going to literally take the opposite with endless possibilities, no limitations, right? So someone may say, well, what if I put it out there and it fails? A simple reframe, but of course I'll give you a lot more in some examples, would be, well, what if I put it out there and it actually is super successful, beyond my wildest dreams, right? And you may clearly see, I hope that you see, that the difference, even in terms of your mood, in terms of your facial expression, right? In terms of you wanting to get out there to now do the work because you're excited because of what could happen versus what I think might happen to fail, you're more than likely, if you stand on this side, if you stand on this side with overflow and abundance, you are clearly going to be more excited to get the work done. So what I am going to do is I am going to take private practice as the stream of income. By all means, replace the term private practice with ebook, coaching program, group practice, whatever the stream of income is that you want to focus on for right now, today. So pick one. Now that you have that stream of income in mind, I am going to be talking to 3 different levels of people, 3 different entrepreneurs. So I'm going to give an example for the entrepreneur who has not started the stream of income yet. Then I'm going to give an example of a limiting belief and a possible reframe. And then I'm also going to give you an example of how that looked inside of my business personally. So I'm gonna become your case study. Then I'm going to give you an example of the middle person, the person who is already in the business, but they may need to make some simple transitions to go full force into the stream of income. Like maybe they've done a little beta testing with the digital product. Maybe they have a part-time private practice, but they want to go full-time. Maybe they're working in someone else's group practice, but they want to leave and start their own, right? Then I'm going to talk about the 3rd level, the person who has a full-time private practice or full-time in terms of efforts, in terms of time, putting in for your digital product business, your coaching business, but it's still something maybe standing in the way of you scaling now your time, which is working less while earning more. So you have to define what stage you're in, and that might be determined based on the stream of income we are referencing, okay? So the first example that I'm going to give you is the person who is starting. So think about a person who's starting a private practice while working at a 9-to-5 job. Okay, so the limiting belief may sound something like this. I don't have the time to start a private practice while working full time. Now, is that valid? Well, it depends, because the last time I checked, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. And there are people that I'm sure if you look for other people like you in your circumstance, or that was in your circumstance, and I was one of those people who I had a full-time job, I worked overtime at my full-time job, and I had side jobs, and I still managed to start building my private practice. So a reframe would be, I can start small. I can set clear boundaries. I can build systems at my pace to manage my time effectively. Starting small is still progress. Now that is a whole different mindset, because the person who is choosing to reframe the I don't have time is a blanket statement, and it's very black and white, meaning you got time or you don't. Successful entrepreneurs give themselves permission to be uncomfortable, to live in the gray, which is, I'm gonna go at my pace. There's gonna be people around me that may go slower or faster or with me. But at the end of the day, I'm gonna learn, where does my time go? I'm going to do a time audit. I'm going to look at, where am I spending time that is not serving my business, or better yet, positioning me to make more money. So I want to give you an example of some of the things that I did before starting my private practice to set my pace and to have boundaries, okay? So this is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the things that I had thought about in terms of, going back 12 years now, what did I do? So one of the things I did is I created what's called a hard stop time. So what tends to happen when you become an entrepreneur is that you forget that at your job, you may have been at a physical location where, like me, I was working in correctional facilities. I can't take my work home with me. I cannot work on the intranet because I have to be plugged into their internet to get access to their deep behind the firewall layer of their internet processes to get access to the client's charts and all the things, right? Now, could I do some research online? I could. But the job that I was working for made it very clear, even, don't take your work home with you. When you're off the clock, you're off the clock, because we ain't paying you. But when you become an entrepreneur, you tend to not set up boundaries with a hard stop to say, I'm going to work my 9 to 5. I'm going to go home, eat or prep my dinner, and then I'm going to work on my private practice or stream of income from 6 to 8, 6 to 9. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, maybe this week, because next week your schedule changes, because I know that everybody's circumstances are different. So set boundaries, create a hard stop, look at your schedule every week, especially if you have a abundant overflowing schedule that may shift every 3 days or every 2 weeks, and just go at your pace. Another thing that I did to even understand how much money I wanted to make was to, yes, look at my goals, but more importantly, when I started getting clients, I then created a money date. A money date for me was time efficiency. It wasn't just about how much money am I making. So what did this look like? Back then, when I first started my practice, I was working in a camp that was 2 hours with traffic in Los Angeles away from my home. That meant that I was working total a 14-hour day, and that did not include the time that I had to actually get up, which was an hour before I had to leave. So technically it was a 15-hour day. I woke up when it was dark. I went to sleep when it was dark, because my shifts were what was considered a 4-10. I worked 10-hour shifts, 2 hours to and from the job, okay? So that meant that I really had 10 hours, and if I want to sleep for 6 to 8, I don't have that much time to play around. So beyond the hard stop, I also had to create a money date where I sat down and I chose the last day of the week that I saw clients. So the way that my schedule panned out, if I worked Sunday through Wednesday every single week, I was intentional with not working on Thursday. Well, why is that? Why wouldn't you just get it all out the way so then you can enjoy your weekend? Well, if I'm exerting a lot of emotional energy and mental energy from Sunday through Wednesday, I want Thursday to be my rest day, or my day that I catch up on the things in my personal life that I couldn't do coming home and leaving home when it's dark. And so Thursday was my catch-all day. Friday became my private practice day. Friday, specifically, intentionally in the morning, because I did want to hang out with my friends on Friday evening. So my hard stop over time used to be like 9 to 12. Then when I started getting more clients, because I was clustering my clients so that someone could not tell me they're available at 8 and then another person available at 6 p.m. That's a big gap, and my private practice office was not around the corner. But get this, even if I was building my private practice right now in 2025, I still would not give somebody free range to get on my calendar because it's my calendar. So when I started getting more clients over time, I extended my schedule to Saturdays. I did Saturdays because I thought it would be easier to see the same type of clients that I see at my job. Why? Because it's the same techniques that I'm doing all day long, unless you're getting bored. But I really enjoyed the teenage and transitional age youth college kids schedule. So I would see transitional age kids on Friday morning because they weren't in school, or if they were in college, they didn't go to school on Fridays. And then on Saturday mornings until 12 or 1, over time, it got shorter and shorter as I started to see where my energy started to be drained, meaning what did I want my cutoff time to be at on Saturdays. I was seeing kids who could not come to me on Fridays because they were in school and or they played sports if they had like a half day. So my private practice schedule at my own pace with a hard stop was Friday and Saturday. Started with Friday, added on Saturday. And then in terms of my money date, when Saturday was my last day, at one point it was Friday, I would sit down, I would download QuickBooks. I would also have an Excel sheet. I would look at my transactions. I would look at who do I need to bill, who do I need to charge, making sure that my bank account got the check in the mail or via direct deposit. And I would do all my progress notes. Why? Because when I'm done, I'm off. And I don't want to work in my home at the time because I had an office, or if you're home, I don't allow my laptop upstairs in my bedroom. There has to be extenuating circumstances like I don't want to be in my office because it's cold or I don't want to be here. I've been in my office for 5 years now, this office. I can't be upstairs in the second floor because the kids are upstairs because it's raining. So sometimes if I want more of a serene feel, I will open up my blinds in my bedroom, but I will create a hard stop, like I'm only working in my bedroom and I can only do limited tasks up there, like on my laptop, for about an hour. After that, it's over for me, or my kids are going to interrupt me. Okay. So I hope that that was helpful in terms of creating boundaries because you can make time. Hey, what's up? Yes, I am interrupting my own podcast episode. And so if you are tapping in right now and you are part of the 70% of people who tap into my podcast episodes, but you are not subscribed to the podcast, I would highly encourage you, just click the follow, the subscribe button, and go ahead and join the abundant community over here where we focus on not overthinking, but we focus on overflow and abundance in our life and in our business. All right, let's go ahead and get back to this podcast episode. Okay, so number 2 is a person who has a little bit or a lot of fear with transitioning into, let me go ahead and make the leap and leave this job because I desire to do so. Or the person who may want to exit out of another group practice to start flourishing on their own because they teeter-tottered with a few clients, but they don't know if they can do it on their own. So an example of a limiting belief could sound like, I'm not ready to leave the safety of my current job. What if I can't find clients? What if I can't make enough money, what they really saying, to pay my bills, right? So a reframe can sound like, I can build my practice part-time while keeping my current role right now, allowing me to transition at my own pace. I will work on building my systems in my business at my own pace to make sure I understand how to market and retain and get clients. There are clients who actually are looking for me, looking for my expertise. So it's really about how you see either limitless possibilities or blocks. And let me ask you, where are you spending more of your time? So the reflection that I'm going to give you again, which kind of overlaps with what I just talked about, is how I, again, on a deeper level, slowly started to transition my part-time practice to full-time. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer. If we're talking about like, well, how was your life? Because that's what some people's question is, which means that you're focused on limitations, not asking me what I did to grow. But I'm gonna go ahead and answer the question. So At the time of me growing my private practice, meaning opening it to growth to actually a group practice, I had recently got divorced. If you have been divorced, you know it's not easy. I did not have any children. I had a job at 3 different colleges. I was working regular 40-hour shifts plus an additional 10 to 20 hours a week at my job. So needless to say, if we're talking about just the topic of time, not where did my time go, because that's a personal choice, I didn't have a lot of time to give. But I made time for what I wanted. And also, I'm not a big advocate of people leaving their job without a hefty nest egg, like you have your expenses built up in a savings account that you are not dibbling and dabbling in to go shopping. And it is stacked up for honestly 6 months. Why? Because it may take you time based on who you choose to see, how you're going to market. Are you going to show up consistently? How much you charge? Are your clients paying you? That's why you want to practice getting some clients before you go full-fledged and just say, I'm just about to go full-time tomorrow. Business don't work like that. Entrepreneurship is a cyclone. So in addition to becoming very strict with my boundaries as it relates to my schedule and also clustering my clients, some other things that I did is start looking at my business like an entity structure, my own agency. I had to check myself if I were working in someone else's group practice, or I would say I was working in an agency group practice. I would start going to work and shifting my mindset. And instead of me walking into an office saying, oh my gosh, I got to go to another meeting, I would shift my brain, because that is where my mind went. Like, why are we here? My mind would immediately shift to, how are they structuring their meetings? How can I benefit from the information in terms of what I am observing? How do they continue to stay open? How do they continue to get kids? Even though it's a jail and, kids get arrested, there are multiple facilities. How do we keep all of these facilities full to the point where our caseloads are full outside of, yes, the kids are like going to jail, right? Because they don't have to go to jail. They can go to a group home. But it's a reason as to why these places are still open. It's because of structure, systems, and knowing how to collect your payment, right? So I structured my schedule and then I expanded it over time. So after a while, I was no longer working at the camp. I was working at juvenile hall. My 2-hour drive to and from work turned into a 7-minute drive away from my house. I hop on the freeway, I get off on the next exit, or I can go by the street and then catch a little bit of traffic. Either way, I was within my job in 10 minutes. Okay. So I still woke up early, but what I'm getting at is my schedule started to expand in terms of me not working 10 hours a day, but working 9. Not really a big deal, but my schedule flip-flopped. On one week, I'm working 5 days. On the next week, I'm working 4, which means that the days off do fluctuate, which means that I have to understand how my private practice schedule is going to work. So I needed to sit down again and do another money date. What is my goal? What is my money goal? How much money do I want to make in my private practice? How many clients do I need to see in order to reach that goal? And then from there, I need to make a plan. If I'm billing insurance, I need to look at how often are they sending me my payment after it is accepted. Let's go a step backward. How long does it take for them to accept the claim? How much am I getting paid from the client compared to with a copay, the actual insurance? And how is that going to affect my payroll? Because when you are a full-time entrepreneur, you really have to understand your cash flow, primarily because you have to know when you're able to pay your bills. Okay, so create structure and again, adopt a mindset of not where are all these blocks coming from and I don't have time, but instead shift your mindset to where am I going to make time to build these things in my business so I can still not be tired, not be burnt out. But let's be clear, give myself grace. I got a 9-to-5 job plus some extra hours, plus I got kids, plus I got a spouse, plus I got my kids in sports. I understand that that's a life I live now, but it doesn't mean you don't have time. It just means that you need to clarify how you are utilizing your time efficiently with the time that you actually have. Okay. All right. Lastly is number 3. So this is the person who is full-time, and you define what your full-time is. In private practice, it might be 20 hours. Okay. If you have digital products, depending on how much you're charging, that might be 5 hours a week. If you're premium, like thousands of dollars for your products. So this is the person who is full-time, but they're having trouble scaling their business, which means that over time, as you really build up your leadership skills, your team, and your back office processes with automation, you're going to start leveraging your time, and you're going to, or you should start seeing your hours decrease when your money should still be increasing. That is the definition of scale. What some people say in the entrepreneurship world is I'm scaling my business, when in actuality, you went on Fiverr, hired a VA for anytime you need a project done, which means that they're actually doing tasks. They're not in charge of responsibility. And when you are not working, your business does not make money. That is not called scale. That is called growing, which means that you have to work in order for your business to make money. Okay. So a limiting belief might sound like at this level, I'm already at capacity. I can't take on any more clients or anything without burning out. I cannot market or do anything else live session for my digital product because I'm about to burn out. So a reframe. I can scale my practice by delegating tasks and responsibilities on a consistent basis, streamlining my back office systems, or introducing an additional stream of income. Now, let me be clear. You want to make sure that your systems for your first stream, or I call ships or boats, is smooth and that is operable when you're not there, which means you got to test it out. Go away for a little bit and see what happens. See if the machine broke. Even if it broke, can you fix it quickly, or does it just sink before you go and build another stream of income? Okay. So here is something that I thought about when I was like in the scaling phase of my business. Just going to list these off and let me know in the comment box below if these sound familiar. I needed to be consistent for myself. When it comes down to growing and scaling, actually, but really scaling your time, you really have to look within. It is from a state of internal motivation. Does that mean that you shouldn't hire a mentor or a coach? You should, because that person is going to be your biggest cheerleader. There were times when I actually was coaching therapists for group practice, and I remember almost every other session they would come in talking about the woe is me, or oh my God, these things happen, I don't know how I'm gonna get out of it. And they're venting, it is what it is. But what I quickly did is I listened, and then I thought about what are their strengths. I didn't minimize what they were going through. I gave them space to talk about it. But I also reminded them that there's also a learning experience from everything that's happening. Tell me, what is it? And once they quickly reframed the situation, they realized that they were giving it too much energy even before they met with me once a month, which means that they may have been sitting with this for like 2 weeks. And then I start thinking like, well, how did this impact your money? How did this impact your business? And they like, you right. I canceled the team meeting. I didn't refer the clients to that therapist to get them more clients. I should have followed back up with this email to have a vendor booth at this community event, but I was too hot at this thing that happened. Okay, now we're talking about leaving money on the table. Okay. And so be consistent for yourself. It's your company. You want to also tap into, how do you feel about your business? Do you feel like you're treating it like a side hustle? Or does it feel like a responsibility of another child? Because if it's a child, I would assume that what your maternal, even if you ain't got kids, you got maternal and paternal instincts with your nieces and nephews, god kids, other kids, you know what I'm saying? Even your therapy kids, if you are a therapist. And so you care about other people, or you wouldn't be watching this video if you didn't. So when you think about a child, you don't neglect a child. You pay attention to the child. If you don't want to use the child as an analogy, let's look at a partner. If you want a healthy relationship, you ain't about to neglect your partner. You're not going to not talk to your partner. You're not going to make sure that you and your partner money game ain't up, because if you don't talk to your partner might find somebody else to talk to. When you don't talk to money, when you don't spend time on the back office of your systems, they're going to break. And when they break, you will have to step in. And when you have to step in, you ain't out there making money. You get me? And so other things that I learned from the scaling phase of my business is not treating it like a side hustle. Also, for private practice, for example, I started to grow into a group practice with coaching. I did have a lot of learning experiences through that, because it wasn't coaching as a therapist. It was coaching as a mentee for people who were not even in my space in mental health business. So I really had to figure a lot out on my own, which is why I do what I do. And I have a high level of passion for making sure that therapists don't take like 7 to 10 years like I did to learn the things that you can learn from me in like 6 to 12 weeks, if not more, depending on the level of success that you want and how much money you want to make. But at the end of the day, I said, you know what, in order for me to scale my time, I really need to hire people. So some of my first hires actually back then were not a VA. Some of my first hires were actually a personal assistant to help me with my personal and my business life. I delegated out tasks in my home, like cleaning up service twice a month, because even though I love cleaning my home, it's not making me money. I needed to leverage my time so I can go out there and make more money. As I then built the systems, got help with an HR company, I then hired at some point 8 therapists, and I had a group practice for 5 years. Now get this, I didn't even leave my 6-figure job until I had my group practice for about 2.5 years. Get that? And I was making well over 6 figures at my job and over 6 figures in my group practice. So within 1 year, I cleared gross $250,000 with those 2 streams of income. Now, was I tired? Yes. What, do I regret it and resent it? No, because it was growing pains. Because it not only taught me what to do in my business later, because I don't like repeating mistakes, but it also helped me teach individuals like yourself, when you want to scale different streams of income, how I can help you shortcut that process. Okay. So some other things that I learned from scaling my business include, but not limited to, hiring a bookkeeper and an accountant if they didn't come as one. And then also, again, I built out systems in my back office, because everything that I did every day, I asked myself, am I great at this? And is this my passion? And is this earning me money? And if the answer is no to any of those, it got to go. It doesn't have to be removed from the business, but it needs to be removed off my plate. Okay. So if you liked these examples of how you shift your limiting beliefs to an abundance mindset and stop overthinking, if you liked my mini case studies of me actually showing you full proof, like I am your walking testimonial of anything is possible if you want it to be, no matter what life season you're in. Okay. Then I want you to check out the show notes, the description box of this episode. And I want you to download my private practice profitability playbook. That playbook has a private podcast embedded in it with a link. It comes with an ebook. So I don't want you to have to log into anything. The only thing you need to do is click the links to get access to everything you need. Okay. So you have things like how to do a time audit with an instructional tutorial video and the Excel sheet that you can copy to your Google Drive. You have a expansive checklist to give you a level of awareness of basic systems that you need for your business, like for marketing, for services, delivery, all the things. But you also have a private podcast feed in there to help you understand your growth over time, specifically in private practice. So whether you have I'm gonna put air quotes because we all define what thriving means to us. If you believe you have a growing and or thriving private practice, this is still for you. Check it out. When you go to the page, you can read everything it gives you. I didn't sugarcoat anything. You know exactly what you're getting. Click the link, get the profitability playbook. This is also for you if you're starting your practice, because get this, now this becomes your roadmap. In there, if you're thinking like, you know what, I actually just want to work with you. I want to be your mentee. I want you to coach me. I want you to teach me. Then still get the playbook, because that's going to be your first step to start acting like an entrepreneur, AKA I say business owner in our programs, because I'm going to show you what we do in our private practice program by starting off with this playbook. Okay. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this podcast episode. If you've loved it, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Give this podcast episode a thumbs up. As a matter of fact, go down to the comment box. Let me know what was your biggest takeaway. What was your favorite example that I gave in terms of learning experiences that you can do right now, because on this podcast, I am very much so about taking messy action. And it's because getting something done is better than perfecting it. All right. So I will talk to y'all in the next podcast episode. Love you. Bye.